rising up against them. Take a look at what's going on in Budapest, in Hungary, where Viktor Orban, Donald Trump's buddy, is losing badly in the polls. And people right now are in Budapest by the tens of thousands telling Orban to resign. Watch this. And here is Orban's rival, the main opposition leader, who is going to bring down Orban. Watch this.
Vége van, elvtársak, vagy ha jobban értitek, továrisi kanyec.
And by the way, I'll translate it for you. He said, "It's over for you, comrade." Let's take a look at what's going on in Belgrade, in Serbia, where the Vučić regime, allied with Vladimir Putin there, is now facing massive uprisings and massive protests there. Let's take a look at what's going on in Belgrade. Now, they say tens of thousands. It looks like hundreds of thousands of people to me. And I think this is foreshadowing what I've said is going to happen, which I call it the summer of democracy here in the United States. Donald Trump's looking at this and he's like, am I next? Here, play this clip. Now, while Donald Trump's fascist allies, or the axis of evil he's trying to have America join with, as they are being cornered and facing uprisings by their people, America's former allies, who should be our allies, the Canadian leaders, the European leaders, are uniting, and they are getting stronger than ever over this past weekend. Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister of the UK, held another meeting, this time a virtual meeting of the Coalition of the Willing, the European leaders, Canadian leaders, other leaders who are rallying around Ukraine as they don't trust Donald Trump because Trump tried to cut them all out of the negotiations with Putin and Saudi Arabia. Europe's like, you ain't gonna do that. We got Ukraine's back. We're standing up for Ukraine. Another virtual meeting was held. This follows the in-person meeting a few weeks back, and it was incredible. I gotta hand it to Prime Minister Keir Starmer. His foreign policy chops, his bringing together this coalition of the willing, surprise, surprise, the U.S. was not on this call, but him bringing together this coalition of the willing to have unified action in support of Ukraine is special. Here's what Keir Starmer posted. He said, "The world is watching. To maintain the momentum towards a just and lasting peace, we must keep strengthening our support to Ukraine and increasing the pressure on Putin." This is actual four-dimensional negotiations right here. Watch Prime Minister Keir Starmer play this clip.
Good morning, colleagues. Can I just start by thanking you all for making time for this important meeting this morning? We've got a lot to discuss because since we last met in person in London just under 2 weeks ago, a lot has happened, particularly in the last week. So it's very important we catch up to move forward. I think what this week has shown, particularly the developments and progress on Tuesday, is that President Zelensky, who's with us this morning, has shown once again that Ukraine is the party of peace because he has agreed to and committed to a 30-day unconditional ceasefire. Now what we see, and this is centerpiece for our discussions today, is that Putin is the one trying to delay. And in a sense, and you all know this, if Putin is serious about peace, it's very simple. He has to stop his barbaric attacks on Ukraine and agree to a ceasefire. And the world is watching. And my feeling is that sooner or later he's going to have to come to the table and engage in serious discussion. But, and this is a big but for us this morning in our meeting, we can't sit back and simply wait for that to happen. We have to keep pushing ahead, pushing forward, and preparing for peace, and a peace that will be secure and that will last. And I think that means strengthening Ukraine so they can defend themselves, and strengthening, obviously, in terms of military capability, in terms of funding, in terms of the provision of further support from all of us to Ukraine. Secondly, being prepared to defend any deal ourselves through a coalition of the willing. We've begun that process, and this morning we can take it forward. And then thirdly, and really importantly, given the developments of the last few days, to keep the pressure on Putin to come to the table. And I think collectively, we've got a number of ways that we can do that. And so it's those three heads really that we're going to focus on in this meeting: strengthening Ukraine, being prepared to defend any deal ourselves through a coalition of the willing, and keeping that pressure on Russia at this crucial time.
It should also be noted as well, as Donald Trump has attacked world leaders across the world, they don't want to do business with the United States. It ain't just consumers boycotting all things America. It is also world leaders who are saying, why would we buy military equipment from Trump if we're going to be treated like this? So Emmanuel Macron, the president of France, he's telling people, look, for those who buy Patriot systems should be offered the new generation Franco-Italian version. Those who buy F-35 should be offered the French planes, and saying, buy French. Buy the French equipment. We ain't going to turn our back. We ain't going to bring you here and try to mock you the way Donald Trump tries to do with world leaders. This was also what Prime Minister Keir Starmer had to say at the press conference that he held following the virtual meeting. Let's play this clip.
Yet behind a just and lasting peace in Ukraine. Now, a huge amount has happened since I brought leaders together at Lancaster House here in London. That was just 2 weeks ago. President Zelensky has shown once again, and beyond any doubt, that Ukraine is the party of peace. Volodymyr has committed to a 30-day unconditional ceasefire, but Putin is trying to delay, saying there must be a painstaking study before a ceasefire can take place. Well, the world needs action, not a study, not empty words and conditions. So my message is very clear. Sooner or later, Putin will have to come to the table. So this is the moment. Let the guns fall silent. Let the barbaric attacks on Ukraine once and for all stop, and agree to a ceasefire now. And let's be clear why this is so important. Russia's appetite for conflict and chaos undermines our security back here at home in the United Kingdom. It drives up the cost of living. It drives up energy costs. So this matters deeply to the United Kingdom. That is why now is the time to engage in discussion on a mechanism to manage and monitor a full ceasefire and agree to serious negotiations towards not just a pause, but a lasting peace, backed by strong security arrangements through our coalition of the willing. And we won't sit back and wait for Putin to act. Instead, we will keep pushing forward. So the group I convened today is more important than ever. It brings together partners from across Europe, as well as Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, with backing from others too, including Japan. We agreed we will keep increasing the pressure on Russia, keep the military aid flowing to Ukraine, and keep tightening the restrictions on Russia's economy.
So while that was going on, what was Donald Trump doing? Oddly, Donald Trump, well, everything he does is oddly, Donald Trump posted the following. I'm pleased to inform you that General Keith Kellogg has been appointed special envoy to Ukraine. General Kellogg, a highly respected military expert, will deal directly with President Zelensky and Ukrainian leadership. He knows them well, and they have a very good working relationship together. Congratulations to General Kellogg, huh? The last time I checked, General Kellogg was appointed back in November of 2024. Do y'all remember that? I mean, is Donald Trump either just completely losing it? Does he have absolutely no clue at all what's going on? I think it's worth discussing. One of the things I want to mention as well, though, while we're on this topic is how I do this research, especially on issues as it relates to international affairs. So I use something called Ground News. It's my research tool. And one of the features that I use is called Blind Spot. For me, before I used Ground News, a blind spot that I had was discussing international affairs. I had to get my international affairs chops up over the past 18 months. So I use Ground News. I use their blind spot feature, and they talk about what's the left talking about? What's the center talking about? What's the people on the right talking about? Are there international affairs issues that people are talking about that we need to be focused on? So what you should do is go to ground.news/MTN. It's ground.news/MTN, or scan this QR code. Get 40% off Ground News's top tier Vantage plan, which will get you everything that you need, the unlimited access. Ground News is subscriber funded, so they don't rely on ads. That could also potentially introduce bias. I get asked a lot, what do I use to research? I use their blind spot feature. I use all their stuff. So go to ground.news/MTN and check it out. By the way, how strange is it that Trump's talking about Keith Kellogg like that? Now, one of the things I want to share with you as well is, what is Putin doing while all of this is taking place, right? So Putin is kind of cornered as well. He sees these massive protests that are taking place in Belgrade, in Budapest. By the way, also, I can't forget about it, in the country of Georgia against the Putin-backed regime there. And Putin says, wait a minute, we were trying to cut out Europe, and now Europe has, united in a way with these negotiations with Trump. So Putin is like, whoa, you've got President Zelensky's now agreeing to the ceasefire. He called Putin's bluff. So Putin's trying to delay right now, and he's trying to play Donald Trump like a fiddle. So Putin called Donald Trump last week and lied and claimed that the Russian forces had totally encircled the Ukrainian troops in the Kursk region, and that Donald Trump was needed to save the Ukrainian troops, and that if Trump saved the Ukrainian troops and Ukraine agreed to never, arm themselves ever again and all of these other preconditions, then Russia and US can basically have an alliance and they can figure this all out. And then Zelensky's like, okay, that's all false. That's literally Putin propaganda that he's spewing to his people in Russia to try to convince them that things are going good for Russia. They're like, that's not what's happening actually on the ground. So Putin's new line, now that Europe's called his bluff, Zelensky said, I'll do a peaceful ceasefire. Zelensky's called his bluff. You see how the negotiating power here changed, where it was Russia and US and Saudi Arabia, and now it's Europe, Ukraine, and they're insinuating themselves as the leader, showing actual strength in negotiation. It's brilliant. So what Putin's saying is, well, we will agree to a ceasefire, but we have to eliminate the root causes of all of this. Let me show you what Putin said. We ran it through AI so we can translate it for you in English. But when he's talking about the root causes, what he means, that's code for basically the elimination of Ukraine and making Ukraine Russia. So here you have Putin, basically, his bluff's been called, and he's like, well, we'll agree to a ceasefire if the root causes are dealt with, meaning no Ukraine, and that they can never have a military. So listen to this, play this clip.
We agree with the proposals to cease hostilities. However, we believe that The cessation should lead to long-term peace and eliminate the initial causes of this crisis. I think for the Ukrainian side, it would be very good to achieve a truce for at least 30 days. And we are for it. But there are nuances. So how will these 30 days be used to ensure that in Ukraine, the forced remobilization, so that weapons are delivered there, so that the newly mobilized units undergo training, or none of this will be done. And then the question arises, how will issues of control and verification be resolved? And how will we be guaranteed that nothing like this will happen? Therefore, the idea itself is correct, and we certainly support it. But there are questions we must well discuss.
That's why Zelensky in Europe is saying, look, no, we need to negotiate with strength. Here's what Zelensky posted. American journalist questions in Kyiv after the meeting of the leaders. I mentioned that many partners acknowledge Ukraine's significant diplomatic progress in Saudi Arabia. Now it will be difficult for Russia to wriggle out. If Russia agrees to a ceasefire, it must demonstrate its willingness to end the war, or it will show that it wants to continue. This is what everyone is waiting for. I want to thank Trump and the American delegation. He has to say that. This process must continue. Everyone agrees with Ukraine's position, and this position has now become shared. If we talk about a ceasefire and Ukraine takes this step, it should be an unconditional ceasefire for 30 days as proposed by the American side. We support this to prepare a plan for a sustainable and just peace. The truth is now clear. Russia must show its intentions for peace, and that is where the pressure must be applied. If Russia does not want peace, strong measures must be taken to push them toward it. If the Russians do not agree, it means they are not disagreeing with our proposal, but specifically with Trump's proposal. You see how Zelensky did there? It's brilliant. And that is why Putin is not agreeing today to what Trump has proposed to Ukraine and Russia. You see how he did it again? He's saying, look, Putin's disagreeing with Trump. Dude, Trump had no clue what Rubio and Mike Waltz actually said. Trump was too busy golfing and doing whatever the hell he was doing, vacationing, talking about Hannibal Lecter or spewing fascist rhetoric at the DOJ. So Zelensky's like, this was the Trump deal. We agreed to what you wanted to do. So now it's on Russia. That's why this is so brilliant. The reports from the Russia side claiming encirclement are lies from Putin. However, Russia is attempting to surround Ukrainian forces on the Ukrainian territory, which our military is aware of, and we have a clear understanding of their intentions. Partners raised the issue of a plan. We need to put security guarantees on paper. Additionally, at today's meeting, both the German and Turkish sides raised the issue of a reconstruction plan, which is a very positive signal. It shows that everyone believes the war can be ended, and there are real chances to do so. We must be strong, decisive, and apply pressure on Russia. Powerful. That's actually how you negotiate. Now, one of the things I want to mention as well is that, I think Donald Trump is seeing these protests. He's seeing that Orban. He's seeing the kind of Putin-aligned regime in Serbia are being protested. He's seeing what's happening in the country of Georgia, right? He's seeing all of those things. So what does Trump do? He invokes wartime powers. The Alien Enemies Act says the U.S. is under invasion from Venezuela through a hybrid gang with the Tren de Agua, which, by the way, there's already laws on the books to deal with gang members, but Trump says there's a war taking place right now, so he's declaring war powers. I think Trump sees the writing on the wall. I think he's terrified right now about everything. Tell me what you think as well. And check out, go to the description and you can check out the link as well for Ground News. I think you should check it out. I think you'll like it. It's where I get my research from. Shout out to them. They sponsor this podcast, and I think they do a great job, right? Ground.news/MTN. Check them out. Thanks for watching. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 5 million subscribers.
Can't get enough Midas? Check out the Midas Plus